Sticks and stones can break your bones, but words can never hurt you. Good day everyone, we are the group 7 and we will be discussing the topic libel. So what is libel? Libel is a public and malicious imputation of a crime or a vice or defect, real or imaginary, or any act, omission, condition, status, or circumstance tending to cause the dishonor, discredit, or contempt of a natural or juridical person, or to blacken the memory of one who is dead. It is also committed by means of writing, printing, lithography, engraving, radio, phonograph, painting, theatrical, exhibition, cinematographic exhibition, or any similar means. Slander or oral defamation. So what is slander or oral defamation? It is saying of something false and damaging. It is the act or offense of saying something false or malicious that damages somebody's reputation. So what is the difference between the libel and the slander? So the libel is a printed defamation and it is more permanent, while the slander is a spoken defamation and it is more fleeting. Journalists must have a healthy respect for laws of libel and privacy because they uphold the right to an individual's good name and the right of private citizens to conduct their private lives without intrusion. In that said, there is a balance to be struck. Journalists should not allow concern about the law to prevent them from doing their work conscientiously for the public good. The best safeguard against a libel action is good journalistic practice, thorough, accurate and balanced reporting, careful and skeptical editing, and fair-minded presentation. So what are the types of libel? The first one is the libel per se, or it is obviously defamatory publications, while the libel per quid, it is a publications which are not obviously defamatory, but which become so when considered in connection with innuendo, colloquium, and explanatory circumstances. So what is libel per se? Libel per se is the more obvious of the two. Libel per se means by itself or on the face of it. The reader or viewer does not have to interpret or study in order to understand the libel per se because it is obvious or evident. Libel per se is the more serious of the two types, and persons libeled in this manner do not have to prove that they suffer damage to their reputations, monetary loss, or other injury. Libel per se can support a lawsuit in itself. For specific types of libel per se, or the obviously defamatory. The first one is accusing a person of having committed an infamous crime. Second, charging that a person has an infectious disease. Third, impeaching a person in his or her trade of profession. And last, a catch-all category consisting of communication that tends to subject one to ridicule, contempt, or disgrace. Libel per quid. The second type of libel is committed by inference and is more hidden. Its legal term, libel per quid, means because of circumstance. In libel per quid, the statements, words, or phrases involved may be harmless in themselves, but become libelous because of attached circumstances. Usually, such circumstances are unforeseen by the publisher, who can claim that the questionable material was published in good faith and without malice. However, good faith is not a complete defense. Common sense approach. Before going into the specific details of various laws, it is important to have a common sense approach to the issues. So the first one is be attentive to complaints about accuracy and fairness, and be prompt in correcting errors. An angry reader treated fairly who sees that you are willing to fix mistakes might be less inclined to take further action. A swift correction can also be seen as mitigating evidence in a court. Second, never ignore a threat of legal action. Talk about it with a senior editor as soon as possible and do not hope it will go away. Next, be sure that senior editors have a chance to check sensitive articles early before they are published. Decisions that might need legal advice, whether there might be some protection against a person likely to sue, or whether a tough statement might be protected because of the circumstances, and should not be made by a single sub-editor a few minutes before a publication deadline. Next is, a good journalism means something taking a risk, but it must always be for a good, well thought out reason. Taking sound legal advice and considering issues of libel is often about risk assessment. Next, some countries consider libel as a criminal matter, which means the accused could go to jail. Others consider it a civil matter, but suing could incur heavy damages. Some plaintiffs will use both civil and criminal law. And last, in some countries, insults or even strong criticism against minister or public officials may be considered libelous or even criminal. And in other countries, criticism of public figures is given wide latitude in the interest of the public good and democracy. So there is simply no universal agreement. So journalists must familiarize themselves with local law and practice. So, who are the persons liable for the crime of libel? So, a person who shall publish, exhibit, or cause the publication or exhibition of any defamation in writing or by similar means shall be responsible for the same. And what are the penalties for libel? Under Article 355 on the Revised Penal Code, for committed libel, prison correctional in its minimum and medium periods, or a fine ranging from 200 to 600 pesos or both. This is in addition to the civil action which may be brought by the offended party. And under the Article 356 under Revised Penal Code, for threatened libel or blackmail, arresto mayor or a fine ranging from 200 to 2,000 pesos or both. Why libel is punishable? It is simply because the law recognizes the value of such reputation and imposes upon him who attacks it, by slanderous words or libelous publication, the liability to make full compensation for the damages done. And it is regional trial court has been specifically designated to try a libel case. Rules on the venue of the criminal and civil actions in written defamation. In general rule, the action may be filed in the regional trial court of the province of the city where the libelous article is printed and first published, or where any of the offended parties actually resides at the time of the commission of the offense. And if the offended party is a public officer with office in Manila at the time the offense was committed, the venue is Manila or the city of province where the libelous article is printed and first published. Where an offended party is a public official with office outside of Manila, the venue is the province of the city where he held office at the time of the commission of the offense, or where the libelous article is printed and first published. And if an offended party is a private person, the venue is his place of residence at the time of the commission of the offense, or where the libelous article is printed and first published. The crime of libel prescribes in 1 year from the date the alleged libelous article was published. And under Article 2219 of the Civil Code provides that moral damages may be recovered in case of libel, slander, or any form of defamation. The offended party in these cases is given the right to receive from the guilty party moral damages for the injury to his feelings and reputation, in addition to punitive or exemplary damages. Court where the civil action for damages be filed. So, in civil action shall be filed in the same court where the criminal action is filed, and vice versa. And the court in which the action is first filed acquires exclusive jurisdiction to entertain the corresponding complaint for libel. And who is the persons who can file a complaint of libel? So a crime which cannot be prosecuted, the officio can only be filed by the offended party, like adultery, concubinage, abduction, rape, or acts of lasciviousness. What are the essential elements of libel? The first one is the imputation must be defamatory. Second, the imputation must be made public. Third, the imputation must be malicious. And last, the imputation must be identifiable. And what are the defenses in libel? The first is privileged communications, fair comment on matters of public interest, fair comment on qualifications of candidates for public office, apology or retraction, rectification, proof of truth, and self-defense. For journalists, the best way to avoid a libel suit is to do responsible reporting. Don't be shy about investigating wrongdoing committed by powerful people, agencies, and institutions, but make sure you have the facts to back up what you say. And that would be all. Thank you for listening, and allow me to leave you a quote in connection to a libel. No matter how many others have written a story, do not write it unless you know you yourself can prove it. Thank you, and God bless everyone.